the computer down a little farther?
Coming, is it?
Uh-huh. There's Brent and Dan on in the meeting room, and there's Dale Doral. Morning, Dale. Here we are.
The joy of technology.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, Dan and Sylvia and Dale.
Morning.
Morning, Lynn. Have the Iowa contingent here, mostly.
Yeah, it looks like it. That's right. All you early birds. That's kind of like we used to be when we lived, when I was a kid, we lived across the road from the meeting house. We were always the last ones there because we watched out the window and as people arrived, and then when they got there, we showed up. So apparently we're doing the same thing. You long distance people are here first.
Morning, Sue.
Good morning.
Oh, there's Chip.
Good morning. My living room's finished.
Yay! Doesn't that feel good?
It does. I can't wait to be able to sit in there and be normal.
So what's next?
The hallway, and I have 2 back bedrooms.
Oh, you'll be at this for quite a while yet.
Oh yeah, they're about half done.
What have you done with all your stuff?
It's in totes. Everything's kind of in storage
Uh-huh.
somewhere or another.
And if you can do without it, then maybe you'll decide you can do without it.
Yes, and I closed my booth at the flea market, so I'm bringing all that stuff home. So I need to find homes for all that.
No.
I don't have any room for it.
Oh dear.
Thank you.
Morning, Chris.
Morning.
Yes, you look good. Chip, with that window behind you, you look like you have sort of a halo on.
Yeah, the light comes in that window. That's why my plants are in there.
And what?
Your writing is not as visible as you
Nice,
might like.
Steve. Nice. What's it say? Life is.
Life is, and you fill in the blank.
Ah.
The
Work
chocolate.
on that.
There is some IPL worker that is missing his helmet. We found this along the road a couple
Oh.
years ago.
Interesting.
So you're prepared for whatever hits you? Is that the sermon here?
Well, you know, you fill in the blank, but life is hard.
Wear a helmet. Life is hard.
So how are the newlyweds and where are you?
We're doing great. I just returned from about a 9-day trip to Indiana and left Dan here to work on the farm. And I just took care of some things and went to some meetings I needed to do. And so being back together again is just lovely.
That's interesting that we're still classified as newlyweds. Feel like we've been married for a long time, don't we?
Mhm.
Well, until somebody gets married, you're gonna be the newlywed.
He's been working on field tile. He has his own tiling machine.
Oh, wow.
Been working on moving land. He has his own bulldozer.
Sounds like we need to visit them when we're out in Iowa, look at his new toys.
We'll
Those his
give you the
toys.
baby bottle.
Big toys for big boys.
And they are big ones. Getting ready to build the new grain bins across the road from where they were this time. Well, good morning, Laurie. Good morning, Dave.
Morning. Will there be less wind across the road?
Oh, the house is going to protect the bins this time.
Okay.
Right. Mhm.
They'll be having the protection of the windbreak. Maybe they'll be more full this time and hold them down.
That could be nice. If the price is right.
Yeah.
I think we finally got everything working.
I can't read the sign on your hat, Steve.
That life is, and you fill in the blank.
That's right. I don't know, it sounds pretty humanist to me.
Is this any kind of a clue?
Actually, believe it or not, I'm more of a theist than a humanist. That's why I'm a closet Quaker.
The number of Quakers that come out of the closet in the last 20 years.
I didn't catch that, but I don't think I want to.
Okay, Chip got it. How's the sound?
Terrible. It's echoing.
Who said that? Does it sound better up here?
Nope.
Sound like you're in a great big room and it's reverberating.
How about now?
That's better.
Okay, we're still trying to get the microphone right. I think some of the reverb is feedback when everybody has their microphones on. So when Norma starts the prelude, you'll need to mute. Because that's why the music didn't pick up as well last time, I believe. Because I tested yesterday by playing the piano and recording, and it came out fine.
Okay, good.
So of course today it won't.
Show me cards working.
I
Chris,
don't
who's your
believe
little buddy?
it doesn't sound like that kind of an echo. I don't believe, Brent. It's like Sylvia said, a big empty room with the hollow sound.
Well, I had the microphone turned way up. I turned it down. Is it better now?
Not really.
Dan, why don't you speak?
Little ducky Duddles went wading in a puddle. Went wading in a puddle quite small.
How's that sound?
Like he's in a big room and the microphone's a long way away from him.
Look at this balloon.
Can't see how weird it is.
Try again.
Nice balloon. Who am
How's
I
it
looking
now?
at? That Eli?
How's it now?
Okay, they're trying to figure out this.
That might be a little better.
It has lots of bumps.
Alien balloon.
It's an alien balloon.
Ah,
Where did you find that, Ainsley?
Oh, she took off already.
Uh,
It's
It,
deformed somehow. I'm not sure what happened to it. It's deformed. Eli's cards.
Is this better?
Yes.
little ducky duddles went wading in a puddle.
Can you hear that
Went wading in
okay?
a puddle quite small. Said he, it doesn't matter how much I splash and splatter. I'm only a little ducky after all.
Was that the
I
screen?
don't know about the content, but the audio is all right.
I think that's the only thing I ever memorized. 70 years ago, our forefathers brought forth on this continent a new nation.
That's pretty good.
Norma is ready to do a prelude. If you want to mute yourselves during the prelude, and then when it's done, unmute yourselves, because Dan will do a greeting and sharing of joys and concerns, and I'm going to try and pivot the mic without it making too much noise.
you so much, Norma. It's the time that we generally share joys and concerns. I'll start. I have bees in a beehive. I have blossoms on the fruit trees, but it's frosted the last 2 days. So I don't know if the bees and the blossoms are going to get together and make fruit this year or not. But it's so nice to watch the pink peach blossoms and the white apple blossoms. And in a day or two, with a little bit of wind, they'll fall like snowflakes. My mother had some dizzy spells last week, but with a little medication and a little more fluid, I think she thinks she's past it. So that's been her excitement. She says she has taken her walker when she goes on her walk around the halls. This is a first in the evolving aging process.
Well, I'm going in for some medical tests on Monday and Tuesday, so prayers would be appreciated.
Some of you know Bill and Georgia Card, lifelong Decatur Township residents. Bill was very seriously injured in an automobile accident on Friday and is in Eskenazi Hospital, I think, fighting for his life. So keep Bill and Georgia and the rest of their family in your prayers. In a happier note, we helped granddaughter Morgan celebrate her 19th birthday yesterday. So kudos to her.
Our daughter Rebecca was in town for a few days, and she's now delivered so many babies she doesn't keep track of them anymore. And she calls some of them butter babies because they just come out really fast. And we're glad to see her, and she's 36.
Is Bill Card related to Bob Card?
That's his son.
I thought it might be. Thank you.
And as Bill's son Scott and grandson Scotty.
I think we need to keep the people that FedEx shooting in our prayers.
President Biden said it accurately that the gun violence in this country is a national disgrace.
Let us come together in prayer. Heavenly Holy Father, help us bring the kingdom of heaven to earth by doing your will. We ask for your blessings and forgiveness as we so share and forgive. Blind us to temptation and keep evil at bay. Bring strength to those who are hurting, bring solace to those that are in pain, bring peace to those that are anxious. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace and goodwill toward men. In Jesus' name, amen. The week before last, it was time to go on a road trip. So I went to Roadside America website and found the states that we were going to, and found the out of the way little quirky things to see. And the one little bit I found in Arkansas was the Sulpana Museum. This was a shipwreck museum. And when you think shipwreck, you think, ooh, treasure and pirates and gold bullion and that kind of thing. Well, this was about as far from that as it could be. The Sultana was a side paddle wheel riverboat that ran up and down the Mississippi. Ran up and down the Mississippi in the 1860s. And this boat was contracted by a company that was to bring paroled Union Civil War prisoners back north to Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky. So the prisoners that had been paroled from horrible pits like Andersonville and Cahaba and Selma were essentially driven to Vicksburg. And at that point, they were to get on the Sultana and go north up the Mississippi River and end up in Cairo, Illinois. Cairo's where the Ohio and the Mississippi converge. And at that time, it was quite the hopping place. In Vicksburg, the operator of the boat line was getting paid per head of persons put on the boat. The Sultana was made to accommodate about 400 people, and by the time loading was done, there were about 2,300 people on board. About 2,100, 2,200, the number's not accurate, were these Union soldiers that had been paroled, that were emaciated, most of them under 100 pounds, most of them under 22 years old. But they were going home. They were excited. Regardless of the fact that Abraham Lincoln had been assassinated, they were happy that Lee surrendered, and they were headed home after as much as 2 years in the prison system in the Confederacy. The Sultana made its way up to Memphis, at which point some of the soldiers got off and wandered around town. And at about midnight on April the 27th, 1865, the Sultana left the Memphis wharf and went to a coaling barge, filled up with enough coal to make it to Cairo, Illinois, but only made it about 7 miles above Memphis. 7 miles above Memphis, one of the boilers blew up. The boiler exploded. There was mayhem immediately because of the number of persons on board. Some of them were near or above the boiler. And within minutes, a fire started. Of course, boats at that time were mostly wooden. And the boat started to burn. We stopped at the little museum and got all this information. And as I usually do when I'm traveling, I buy a book that has to do with what we saw or where we were. And this book was compiled in 1897, 1898, 25 years after the explosion. And the book contained reminiscence of about 250 of the survivors. All told, there were about 1,500 to 1,600 persons that died in the catastrophe of the Sultana. It is the worst maritime disaster in US history, and yet nobody knows of the Sultana. In this book, the reminiscence of the survivors had a very common theme, that there was the worst that they had ever seen, and that they couldn't write or say enough to convey how bad it was. And these people had been through military battles. They had been incarcerated in the worst prisons known at the time. And yet this catastrophe was worse because there were hundreds of soldiers that had been blown into the water, that had been pushed into the water, that had been scalded, had been maimed, had been injured, and it was a scene that was desperate. The words that kept coming out in these stories were that people were praying or crying or cursing. That was what was going on, that there were hundreds of people in the water, hundreds of men. These were all men. There was a tale of one woman and 2 children, but for the most part, for the rest of the part, all of the people on board were male, were men. And in this desperate situation, they would pray if they had a faith. They would curse if they didn't, or maybe even if they did. Curse their luck, curse their circumstance. They were supposed to be going home and supposed to be happy. This was the end of their war. This was the end of their imprisonment. And yet in this desperate situation, there were those that took action. It's seemingly that the survivors were the ones that would take action, that would keep calm, keep cool in all this mayhem. They would find something that would float. They might throw it in the water. The problem was when you threw it in the water, somebody else that was already there would take it. There were persons that were floating on straw bales because there were some animals on board. There were persons that were floating on dead mules that had been killed in the explosion. And this time of year, the Mississippi River is not very warm. These people had no extra calories to burn. Many of the reminiscences had to do with they had lost consciousness while they were clinging to trees because the Mississippi was out of its banks. They had come across submerged islands with willow trees that were sticking out. A very desperate scene. People desperate to survive. Many thought that your choice was to stay on the boat and burn to death or to jump in the river and drown. At the time, not a lot of people knew how to swim. And those that did threw off all of their clothes before they jumped in the water. A desperate situation. I've never been in such a desperate situation. Nowhere even close. But in desperate situations, it calls for action. Are we in desperate times? Has the COVID disease created desperation? It hasn't for me, but I'm sure it has for some. I read of food insecurity. There are people that are desperate, not knowing where their next meal may come from. How do they deal with desperation? How desperate is a boy who can shoot and 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 shoot 8 people and then kill himself? What desperation was there? What action can we take? How can we intervene? Do we know people that are desperate? How can we help? The one that comes to mind for me is Sheltering Wings. I've spoken of this organization before. People who are desperate in their living circumstance, who have to get away from violence, who have to get away from meanness. They're desperate. And yet places like Sheltering Wings exist. I don't know how to take care of desperate people in that circumstance, but the people at Sheltering Wings do. In this age, I think we need to support those organizations any way we can. Have the courage to help. How do we ease desperation? I picked the Psalm of David, Psalm 27. It's David's song of confidence. Have courage, be confident in your faith that you can help. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When evildoers assail me, uttering slanders against me, my adversaries and foes, they shall stumble and fall. Though a host encamped against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war rise against me, yea, I will be confident. One thing I have asked of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. For he will hide me in his shelter in the day of trouble. He will conceal me under the cover of his tent. He will set me high upon a rock. And now my head shall be lifted up above my enemies round about me, and I will offer his tent sacrifices with shouts of joy. I will sing and make melody to the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud. Be gracious to me and answer me. Thou hast said, seek ye my face. My heart says to thee, thy face, Lord, do I seek. Hide not thy face from me. Turn not thy servant away in anger, thou who hast been my help. Cast me not off, forsake me not, O God of my salvation. For my father and my mother have forsaken me, but the Lord will take me up. Teach me thy way, O Lord, and lead me on a level path because of my enemies. Give me not up to the will of my adversaries, for false witnesses have been against me, and they breathe out violence. I believe that I shall see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Yea, wait for the Lord. Have courage to help those in desperation. In closing, I'd like to read the words to the hymn that Norma will play in a minute. God be with you till we meet again. By his counsel's guide uphold you. With his sheep securely fold you. Neath his wings protecting hide you. Daily manna still provide you. When life's perils thick confound you, put his arms unfailing round you. Keep love's banner floating o'er you. Smite death's threatening wave before you. God be with you till we meet again.
This is our time of transition for friends who need to leave, as Norma does, to do music ministry elsewhere or for any other reasons. We will continue with unprogrammed worship at this time.
As I have stated before, my go-to when I'm in tough times, I can't say I've been in desperation, but in tough times, is prayer and song. And for other people, some desperation you can help them with, some you can't. But sometimes at least just sitting there and listening to them. The old commercial of getting a lifesaver, sharing lifesavers, but just letting them know they're not alone. They can have to write it out, but they won't be alone when they do it.
I think our time has just about expired. Wish you all blessings for the week. My sister turned 60 today. My mom turns 87 on the 21st. Time keeps on passing.
Good to see everybody.
Ticking, ticking, ticking into the future.
See you. Good to see you, Nancy. Oh, she already left. Oh, no, there she is. Good to see you, Nancy.